What's up? Welcome back to the Asymmetrical Athlete YouTube channel and podcast. Today, let's talk about what it means to be a professional. So hey, it may look a little different today. I'm actually at work right now. There's all like 4 of us here, so it's pretty chill. This is one of the studios that we have at work. They do like their own podcasts and stuff. I'm not as cool as they are, and I don't have that much money, so I am on my iPhone. Anyways, that's where I'm at. If it looks different today, don't worry about it, no biggie. Hey, so recently I had an interview for another position at a different company for kind of the same thing I'm doing here, armed security stuff, corporate security stuff. And when I did the interview, it was all good. Then I had a background check, pretty typical. But I had a meeting with the background check guy, and turns out he's one of the 4 leadership guys that, bosses that organize the structure. And when I had this meeting with him, there were a lot of things that stood out to me. And now that we're going into a new year, it's the end of the year, the experience I had from that 45-minute interview really kind of propelled me into my goals for next year. And it made me really think hard because I haven't put out a YouTube channel for a while because I've been really busy. And I wanted to dive into this professionalism thing. So I had this interview with the background guy. First of all, he was late when he arrived. When he did arrive, he said, we're going to go have some breakfast. When he got to the table, the waitress came up, asked him what he wanted. He then proceeded to have like a 10-minute conversation with her, basically completely ignoring me. We talked about my background, and he kind of just completely tossed away all my military and contracting stuff because he had been a cop for 32 years. And he thought that, if you're a cop, you're perfect and nobody needs anything else in life. So it really rubbed me raw. Anyway, they offered me the job. It was actually going to pay more than what I'm making now, and I turned it down because I couldn't work for a guy like that. He was grossly overweight. He smelled like cigarettes. Like everything that you don't want in a boss, like he was it, right? Talk about himself for 30 minutes out of the 45 minutes, and then basically hyped himself up, had a bunch of cool cop stories, and it was pretty bad. So what is a professional? What does it mean to be a professional? I ask everybody on this channel, on the podcast, are you an asset or a liability? In my profession, my chosen profession, since I was 18 years old, I've been carrying a firearm professionally since then. I'll be 44 here in a few months, so that's, a long time, right? And it's one of those things that, to me, if you are carrying a firearm professionally, if you are in charge of either killing people or saving people or protecting people, there are certain things that go along with being a professional, right? To get it out of the way, I don't think I'm a professional in every aspect. And again, that's what led me to these goals for next year. Webster, if you look it up in the dictionary, professional is somebody who gets paid for doing a job, right? Which is pretty much the layman's terms for it. And it's like, well, in that case, like the dude who flips my burgers at McDonald's is a professional, but yet they fuck up my order every single time I go there. So are they really a professional? I don't know about all that. If you look way back, right, you go all the way back in the day, like to the ancient Spartans, right? Everybody knows who they are. Everybody knows about the Agoge, and they took a child and they, built him into a warrior. To me, that was a professional, right? 24/7, they thought about their job. What was their job? To protect Sparta, to kill the enemy, blah blah blah. Professional. The ancient samurais, right? They perfected their craft. Every day they practiced their art. They were professionals, Some, not all, modern athletes today, right? Look at Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was, everybody thought he was an asshole and stuff, but yet he just hated to lose so much that he wanted to bring everybody else up to his level. And you can't argue with the guy. The guy's the best basketball player ever, right? He definitely was a professional. Look at young Mike Tyson, right? Customato used to whisper, or not whisper, but he used to tell him every single day, you are the greatest boxer in the world. You are going to be a heavyweight champ. Every single day when he was 14 years old, and then he became champ at 20 or 21 years old. That takes an extraordinary high level of professionalism, right? If you go into my world, right? Look at, Delta Force and, SEAL Team 6, right? CAG and DevGru. Those dudes are the utmost professionals. They master not only the craft of killing people, they master the craft of literally everything. Breaching doors, jumping out of planes, jumping out of planes with big heavy shit on. There is a multitude of things that they can do, and they're pros at all of it, right? Now, with that being said, it does take a toll, right? Thinking about your job every day, 24 hours a day, takes a toll. A lot of those tier 1 operators, they are not right in the head anymore. As my wife puts it, she thinks that the human body or the human brain can only take so much trauma. So for me, for example, I joined the Army when I was 18, and I stayed active, for 12 years, and then contracted right away for another 6 years. Then I became a cop for another, 3 or 4 years. So it was constantly putting things in my head of trauma, right? Whether that be blowing things up or shooting people or just seeing dead people or seeing car wrecks, all the stuff. She says your brain can only take so much. And it might be true because, you listen to podcasts of these, tier 1 operators, and every one of them have the same story. Every one of them have, not just PTSD, but some of them, got stuck in a parking lot at Walmart and they couldn't find their way home. And they had to call their wife bawling saying, please come get me. A lot of them were major drug addicts because they were operating at such a high level they did not want to take any time off to heal themselves. So they were popping pills and doing all kinds of stuff to work, right? So it's really hard. Now, contrast that. Look at the average police officer, right? When I say police officer, what's the first thing that comes into your mind? Is it some fucking SWAT operator who's got $20,000 worth of bullshit on? Or is it a fat fuck cop that's a giant asshole? Be honest, they're both out there, right? If you look at the broad spectrum of cops, I would say the vast majority of them are overweight. Most of them couldn't fight their way out of a paper bag. I would probably venture to say 75-80% of them couldn't even do a single pull-up or run for a quarter mile. And then you ask them to shoot a gun and, dude, I just watched a person who was a cop for 29 years, then went right into the corporate security world, and we went to the range a couple of weeks ago. We warmed up with a 25-meter target. It was a C zone, I want to say. 10 rounds, cold, no time limit. Boom, boom, boom. 25 yards, and that's it. He hit 1 or 2 shots. Now, mine were not in a little bitty hole like this, but I hit all 10 shots on C zone at 25 yards, cold, right? So that brings me up to being able to perform on demand, right? If you're a professional, you can perform on demand. Again, let's look at Michael Jordan, right? How many times did they give that dude the ball to make the winning shot? How many times did Mike Tyson knock out a dude in the first round? That's performance on demand. So if you're a professional, you can do that, right? No matter what time of day, no matter how tired you are, you can perform on demand. You know, again, going back to the Delta Force guys and stuff, you know, I think people look at those guys and they idolize them and they want to be like them. And you can tell because, you know, all the video games have those guys. All the kids that play airsoft, they have dressed up to look just like those guys. They watch their videos and buy every one of their products and things like that. And I think they idolize them because those guys made a lot of sacrifices that people are not willing to make. They are professionals and they made the everyday 24/7 sacrifice to be a professional. Unfortunately, most people nowadays are just lazy, right? You look at professionals back in the 1920s, let's just say. If you had a bricklayer in the 1920s, he would probably be able to outperform any bricklayer of today, right? Carpenters, anything like that, any skilled labor, that they would probably be able to outperform anybody of today. Just because they, back then, were proud of what they did, they were vested in what they were doing, and they wanted to be better constantly. We don't get that nowadays from most people, right? A lot of people get a job and it's a paycheck and that's it and they roll out. I know cops that are like that. I know fucking soldiers that are like that. I know a lot of contractors like that. And in this world I live in now, it's definitely 100% like that. When you come into this world, like, they ask you certain questions, right? Like, hey, if something were to happen, you are an armed security officer, would you be willing to use your gun to save the lives of the people, you know, that you work for? And some people are just like, no, like, I just call the cops and roll out. And it's like, well, then why the fuck did you even apply for the job? Why do you have a gun? Like, what? It doesn't make any sense to me. At your job, and, you know, I want to preface this by, every job that I've had has been involving, you know, guns, right? So that's where I'm getting a lot of my thought process from. Obviously, the guy that is a IT guy and he's dealing with computers every day, obviously that dude does not need to be unbelievably physically fit or really physically fit at all, right, to do his job. So when I'm talking about all this stuff, I'm mostly talking about dudes that have a similar background as I do, right? But in your job, no matter what it is, do you look at your job and say, okay, where do I need to get better? Where am I weak at and that I need to perform better? What skills don't I have that I need to acquire? And do you work on those skills every day? Again, gunfighters. Do you pick up a gun and dry fire it every day? I do. Every day I'm at home, I got like 2 or 3 guns and I pick them up and I dry fire them. Right now it's almost Christmas. We have a Christmas tree up. I aim at ordnance on the tree. Bam, 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 right? Ordnance on the tree. And I'll do it for 10, 15, 20 minutes watching a show, dinner's cooking, you know, whatever, right? And I'm not saying I'm the best shooter in the world, because I'm fucking definitely not. I'm not the fastest dude in the world. I'm not the most accurate dude in the world by any means. But I put the time in so that way, on demand, I know that I can make a 25-yard shot in a seasoned steel target with no worries at all, right? I mean, and then you have people that don't do that, that when they need to perform, they hit 2 out of 10 shots. So I'm not saying that I'm the best in the world. I'm just saying that maybe what I'm doing is helping me out a little bit, right? Do you know everything about your job, right? Like a police officer, for example, their scope of knowledge has to be super broad. They got a blue book, they call it, and it's about that thick, and it's got all damn near every criminal law, every traffic code, all that stuff in there, and you're pretty much, you have to know the whole thing. It's hard to know the whole thing, and I don't know too many people actually do, because, you know, you pick out certain crimes that you know, but under the scope of that, and what else? You have to be able to shoot, you have to be able to fight, you have to be able to drive, you know, you have to be a thinker, right? You have to be able to calm situations down, you know, this, that, and the other. You have to be able, the whole broad scope of things. And most cops, a lot of cops are just like, hey, like, I've made it, I'm a detective, or I've been on the road for 5 years, or whatever, right? And they just think they know everything. And you never do. Never. You never know everything. That's if there's any factual information in this video, that is 100% factual. If you follow GBRS group on social media, one of the founders there, DJ Shipley, he was a Navy SEAL Team 6 guy. He said something that stuck with me pretty good. And I don't idolize any of these guys. I don't put them on a pedestal. I just listen to them and try to take what they say. A lot of it with a grain of salt, and a lot of it you can take it and use it, right? But he said something that he said. One of his team leaders, I believe it was a recce team leader, told him, "Hey, look, you need to look the part, you need to act the part, and you need to be the part." So when an important somebody comes up and says, "Hey, I want to see a Navy SEAL," and you pop out, you should look exactly like what they have in their mind, right? You should be fit, you should be this, you should be that, you should be, professional everywhere, right? And when that same person says, "Hey, I want to see what you can do," and you go to the flat range and you shoot, you should be able to perform on demand exactly how they want you to, because you're a fucking professional. So if he says, "Hey, we want a 25-yard shot from holster in under 2 seconds," you should be able to boom, boom, and shoot and hit the target. Why? Because that dude has it in his mind that that's how good you are, and you need to be that fucking good, right? He also said a few things that, you can, again, take with a grain of salt, right? Depending on what your job is. If somebody calls you at 3 a.m. on a Friday night and you needed to go right then and there, get out of bed, get dressed, and go perform at whatever your job is, could you do it? Would you be drunk? Could you not be an asset? Would you be a liability if you got there? He went into that, and it really made me think, like, I don't drink that much anyway. I might have a glass of wine here and there, a glass of bourbon here and there, but I haven't gotten drunk in Lord knows how long. So I don't even remember last time I got drunk. But at 3 a.m, you're waking up, you're getting the sleep out of your eyes. Can you perform on demand? I mean, that's a good question, right? I know, like in Iraq and stuff, when we were on QRF, or in Afghanistan, we were on QRF, you had to perform on demand. They'd wake you up, you jump up, put your shit on, you go, right? But I haven't had to do that for a long time. So would I be able to? I don't know. It's a good question. When we talk about looking the part, there is a study, and it's famous in the cop world, that they went around and they asked criminals that had shot cops or killed cops why they did it, why they chose that particular cop, right? And the one that stands out to most people is a guy down in Las Vegas. He just wanted to kill a cop for some reason. He was monitoring traffic, and at this certain intersection, there was always traffic accidents. So what he did was he parked in a parking lot right at the intersection, and he waited for a traffic accident. Traffic accident happens, a cop pulls up, cop gets out, cop does his thing, everybody goes, okay? Another traffic accident happens, different cop pulls up, starts doing his thing, dude gets out of his car, goes up and kills cop, right? They asked him, well, why didn't you shoot that first cop, right? Like, he was there, you were there, why didn't you just shoot him? The guy goes, I didn't think I could kill him. And he's like, well, what do you mean by that? He said that when the cop got out, he had a pressed uniform, he was physically fit, he looked like a professional. And this guy was worried that if he tried killing him, he wouldn't be able to, and that cop would kill him, because simply based upon appearance. The second the cop that pulled up, fat, overweight, uniform wasn't pressed, boots weren't shined, like, the whole nine, right? And he said that cop was easy to kill because I knew that he would not be able to kill me. Because, again, the way back, do you look the part? Do you act the part? If you want to be professional, you have to treat yourself like a professional, right? So, do you treat yourself like a professional? I know I don't. Do you eat like a professional, you get enough sleep like a professional. And when I say professional, I mean whatever your world that you're in. For my world, it would be, being physically fit and all this, that, and the other. Like, do I have a good diet? I don't think I do. Do I get enough sleep? I don't think I do. Do I seek outside influence to help me be better? I do that. Do I try every day to get better? I do that. Do I look at my weak points in my job and try to make them better? I do that. Do I look at my weak points at myself in general and try to make those better? Not as much as I should, right? Right now on social media, there is a huge influx of these professional trainers. And whether it's being physically fit or shooting, because those are the two things I follow on social media, there's an influx of people that are on there. And what do? They use really big words. They use $10 words, and they want to make you think that they're smart. It's funny when I see those guys because they look like robots. So they come out, bam, their elbows are out here, and they're fucking trunk twisting and all this other stuff. And it's like a show because I know for a fact that dudes that look like robots on the range have never had to perform in real life. Dudes that just look smooth and shoot really well have had to perform in real life, and they don't look like robots. You want an example? I got you. Look at GBRS group, any Delta Force guy, any of those guys, any of the retired Delta Force guys that right now are, trainers. Look at all those guys. Look at most, Navy SEALs that are trainers, guys like that. Almost all of them, when you watch them, they do not look like robots when they're shooting, right? Contrast that with some guy who was a cop for 5 years, thinks he's fucking God, and watch him shoot. He uses $10 words and everything is everything. And it looks fucking retarded. It looks retarded to people who have done this shit before in real life. It does not look retarded to the people who don't know what they're looking for. So when everybody says vet your instructors, well, but this guy was a Marine. What did he do in the Marine Corps? Did he even fucking deploy? Because most of those dudes have like 4 years in the Marine Corps. They call a ship being on a ship for a few months of deployment, right? Most of those dudes were probably not even fucking infantry guys. But they say they were a Marine. And they ride on those coattails, right? Or you got the dude who I was a cop. What'd you do? Were you in any specialized units? Did you do any specialized anything? Why should I fucking listen to you? If your resume can't back up what you're doing, then why should I listen to you? I mean, look at, let's say, one of the greatest pistol shooters out there, Rob Latham, right? I don't think Rob Latham has ever been a cop or in the military. He might have been, I just don't know about it. But he has a resume that can back his skills up. If you want to learn how to shoot a gun, that dude can teach you how to shoot a gun. Why? Because he has a fucking trophy case the size of a house full of trophies saying that he's pretty damn good at it. But you have a guy who maybe spent 3 or 4 years in the Marine Corps or the Army, doesn't matter, it's all the same, and then was a cop for a couple years, and now all of a sudden he's a fucking instructor? Like, are you serious? Why? Oh, because you took one class before. Oh, well, fuck me, right? It's getting to the point where it's absolutely ridiculous. I just listened to a guy who was in the Army for 3 years as an MP, then he was a cop, and now he's retired. And he literally said he had a class that was for LEOs, not enough people signed up, so he dropped the class, and he said, hey, I guess you're fine with those, low-level post certifications. You don't want to take a class with a real American gunslinger like myself. And I'm thinking, how many fucking guns have you slain? Because as an MP, I know you didn't do a fucking thing in the military. And then as a cop, regardless of what SWAT team you were on, you probably didn't do shit as a cop either. Oh, I was on 8 million SWAT operations. Oh, so you went to a building and you stood there for an hour out in the cold. And then you dumped a bunch of tear gas in there, and then you went in there and handcuffed somebody. Fucking shit. Oh, wow. That's impressive. Fuck out of here. So my point being, you really have to vet people. Again, I'm not the best at anything, but I can read somebody pretty good, and I can tell you if they're full of shit. And I don't give a fuck how great you are at shooting. I don't care if you can hit steel at 50 yards sub-second. It doesn't matter to me. If you can't teach a 5-year-old how to shoot, if you have to use those big words, that just tells me you're fucking stupid and you don't know what you're doing. Talking about training, to be a professional. Do you train in your off time? Like when you're not at work? When you don't have to train, but you do it because you want to get better? If you're required to be physically fit for your job, are you? Or are you overweight? Do you just look pretty, but you're not really strong? I know a lot of dudes like that. I know a lot of dudes that go to the gym just for aesthetics. Not necessarily a bad thing, but if your job requires you to be physically fit, those aesthetics are not going to win a fight for you, right? My neighbor, I won't say what job he's in, but he's a big dude. He looks really pretty. I don't know how much the guy weighs. He's probably 6 foot tall, and he's just a big dude. But he looks pretty, like he goes to the gym. But he couldn't even take a 180-pound stone and put it to his shoulder. It's not that hard. At all. I don't look the prettiest, but I guarantee if I get my hands on you, I'm going to put you to the ground. Why? Because I train that way, and I've been training that way for a long time, and I know how big humans are, and I know what they feel like when you wrestle with them, and I know the tactical leverages I can get and the tactical advantages I can get, and I know that for a fact, if I get my hands on you, I can put you on the ground. Because I've done it over and over and over again in real life, not just in the gym. If you are in a job like mine, whether it be military, cop, contracting, corporate security, whatever, if you carry a gun for a living, your main focus is gunfighting, right? That's the way a lot of people are. I know I'm the same way, right? My main focus is hey, how can I shoot? But do you have any other skills? Can you fight, legitimately? If somebody wants to take a swing at you, do you know how to defend yourself? Do you know how to hit somebody back? Do you know how to grapple? Any of that stuff? If somebody gets shot, do you know how to perform trauma medicine at all? If you ever taken a class or got taught or know anything about it, even carry something on you? To wrap this all up, I'm going to say this. To be a professional, in my opinion, right, is you have to know your job inside and out. You have to know the job above you and the job below you inside and out. You don't have to obsess with the job, but you need to think about the job every day. You need to have goals to get yourself better at your job, whatever that may be. If your job, like mine, requires a broad skill set, then you need to have some broad goals and wrangle all them bad boys in and pick and choose which one you're going to knock down first. Right? Like I mentioned before, if you're a gunfighter, do you pick up your gun every day? Do you dry fire it, right? Do you practice trauma medicine? Do you watch podcasts or YouTube and listen to podcasts and try to pick up things that you can use in your job? Do you pick people's brains that are better than you, that can help you out? And like we said before, do you look the part? Are you that cop that's going to get shot because you look fat and sloppy? Or are you the cop that is not going to get shot because the dude doesn't think he can take you? Right? If you're going to a bar and you see a bouncer and that dude's a big sumbitch, you're like, whoo, buddy, I better not get drunk and start anything tonight. Or do you see a bouncer that's a little bitty dude, maybe fat, maybe he has to sit on the chair the whole time with his fucking guts hanging over, and you're like, okay, whatever, I'm going to have some fun tonight. There's a difference there. And if you look the part, or don't look the part, can you perform on demand? Can they pick you out any time of day, any time of night, and say, do this, and you can do it because it's part of your job, because you're a fucking professional? I was very disappointed when I saw a guy who was a cop for 30 years and has a bunch of cool guy cop stories and was on a TAC team and this, that, and the other, and he hits like 1 or 2 rounds up 25 yards. That's pretty bad. Especially when the guy's whole fucking job is to kill bad guys and save people's lives, right? So if you look the part, can you act the part? Can you perform on demand? When somebody sees you, do they say, I bet he's a fill in the blank? Well, from that interview, from listening to some guys, I have, looked inward and said, hey, what do I need to do, right? What do I need to do to be all those things that I just talked about? I need to shoot more, right? I don't think my shooting is up to par. I need to do some more cardio, right? I'm really good at like sprinting and doing things, but like if it's a prolonged 15, 20 minute fight, I'm not going to do so great. So I need to work on that, right? I need to heal my body up a little bit. My back, my shoulder. I need to do more things to heal that up. My diet can always be better, right? Things like that. And then you're going to find something, because I've been in this world before. You're going to find out that when all your goals are just to make yourself better, because that's essentially what you're doing, the rest of your life is going to get better too. Your relationships with your spouses are going to get better. With your kids are going to get better, because you don't feel like a piece of shit anymore on the inside. You're doing good things for your body. Your body is healing and feeling good. You are going to, in turn, push out positive vibes, if you will, and you are going to be happy or more happy with your children, your wife, your husband, whoever it may be. In turn, that's going to make you happier at home, so you're probably going to be happier at work, right? And it's a big vicious circle of happiness. And I know it for a fact, because I've been down that road. I've been down that opposite road too, where I did not feel good, and I took it out on everybody, and my life sucked, and blah, 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 right? But if we're talking about being a professional, you don't get days off. You don't get to have a shitty life, because your worst day is the day that somebody's going to come and test you. That day where, you haven't been on a good diet for a month, you haven't worked out in a couple of weeks, you're feeling like shit, you didn't get any sleep, blah, 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 you and your wife got into a fight. That's the day. That's the fucking day it's going to happen. And when it happens, are you going to be ready for it? I can't answer that question for you. Can't answer that question for me either, because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to be ready, but you know what? I'm going to fucking find out. One way or another, right? All right, well, that's all I got. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Happy Hanukkah, or whatever you celebrate. Happy merry thing you celebrate. And Happy New Year. And I hope that this next year brings everybody excellent stuff. I really do. From the bottom of that little black heart that I have, the little bitty red spot says, Happy fucking New Year. Happy holidays to everybody. I really honestly appreciate everybody who listens and watches to me. I really do, because I started this as an outlet when I was going through a shitty time in my life, and it's given me kind of something to do, right? And with the things I've done in the past, I want to put that out to everybody to help everybody else out. As always, if you have any questions, comments, anything, drop them below. If you see anything, you know that I reply to everybody, and I'll have a conversation, no problem, with anybody. And remember, if you're going to be a professional, be a fucking professional. And always ask yourself, are you an asset or a liability?